What's going on, guys? Scott Sedman here for London Plays Guild, and I am here with my XO Undefeated pre-release deck profile for Prism, my hero Prism. She's a light illusionist, and the event was run by Mana Gaming in Eastbourne. So yes, huge shout out to them. That we'll leave a link in the description below to go and check out their webpage and store. Please support them because they provided such an awesome event. And now let's break it down. So what is Prism's gimmick? Essentially, Prism can create by removing something from her soul. We'll go over how to get things into her soul just in just a bit. But essentially, every time you would take damage, you can destroy this and it prevents one instance of damage. Be it arcane or be it combat, it's a really good thing to have. Her weapon is Iris of Reality, which makes auras, like this shield, a weapon that you can use by paying 3, and it also gets go again. So the more, say if I had 3 blue cards in hand and 2 of those on turn, I could just keep hitting away for 4 strength. That's kind of how it goes. My equipment, I got very lucky with what I pulled. I managed to pull at least one of every armor slot. Ironhard Helm, pay 1 resource to get 2 defense. Pretty good, you destroy it after it. This Stubby Hammers was probably the most utilised equipment, but it came in really handy and you'll see why with the rest of the deck. Blood Drop Rocket is just a little bit of an extender if needed. She acts at instant speed. And Time Skippers I only used once in my final game. It costs 3, you get 2 actions, but then you still got to pay for those actions. So it's one of those things. If you can make it work, you can make it work, which you can with 0 costs. So yeah, overall pretty cool. My matchups were against 2 Chains and a Prism in the third and final round. And obviously, as you can see here, I have got Exude Confidence, possibly the best card in this deck that I pulled. It's a 0 cost, 4 strength, 2 shield. While Exude Confidence isn't defended by a card with equal or greater strength, the defending hero can't play or activate instants or defense reactions this combat chain. It's for the entire chain. And as you can see here, she also has another effect, instant. Paying 3, you can give her an extra +2. That is insane. So essentially, you have to force your opponent to block with a minimum of 6 to get their instant effects or reactions, and it's super good. I was managed to pumping her to 9 and 10 in some cases, and that's a lot. That is, you don't want to take that. So highly recommend trying to get some Exude Confidence. But what really, I think, took the games for me, especially against Chain, were Ode to Wrath and Merciful Retribution. So both are 4 costs, probably the highest cost cards I've seen in the game. There might be more, but again, I'm still pretty new to Flesh and Blood. Both are yellow, so they pitch for 2. So we'll go over Ode to Wrath first. Whenever a source I control deals damage to an opponent's hero, they lose 1 health. Now, this isn't damage. They just lose that health. So essentially, everything I do, add +1 to it. Illusionist attack action cards I control have Go Again. This is hugely important, and I'll show you why in just a second. It also has Spectra. Ode to Wrath can be attacked. When it's attacked, I destroy it and close the combat chain. The attack does not resolve. That's huge. It essentially ends your opponent's momentum, and now it forces them to deal with it. If they don't deal with it, I keep getting an advantage from it, and if they do, then it's cool. I get an extra turn of coming back. So this is awesome. But then you pair it with a Merciful Retribution. So a same stat line, pitches for 2, has a cost of 4. Whenever an aura or attack action card I control is destroyed, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero. If it's a non-token light card, put it into my soul. It also has Spectra, just like to Wrath. So having both of these on board. Okay, so you're like, but where's the where's the combo there? So you combine this with Spectral Shield. Every time you would take damage, you destroy this to prevent it. This getting destroyed triggers Merciful Retribution, which deals 1 damage to your opponent. Because you've dealt damage from a source, they lose 1 life. It's not even damage. I shouldn't say that. They just lose an extra health. And the ability to keep using this for 2 a turn in either player's turn. So They're often trying to poke you with one arcane damage. I can respond and make one of these and stop that damage, but also bouncing it back essentially to my opponent, giving them damage. And that's awesome. So that's essentially the bread and butter of what won me this tournament, I feel. But we'll go into this card next, which is Impenetrable Belief. So my first two matchups were Chitin, which is hugely important because they do like to banish cards. If 3 or more cards have been put into an opposing hero's banished zone, Impenetrable Belief gains +2 while defending. So 4 defense. But even if that's not the case, it's a pitch for free. This card is hugely effective against Chain and is something I would recommend, if not mainboarding, sideboarding, because it's hugely beneficial. I liked it because it pitches for free, has 3 strength, has 4 defense in the best case scenario, has 2 defense in the worst case scenario. It's not a bad card at all. So, well, just highly recommend it. Again, it didn't come in too handy during the last matchup because obviously it was a mirror match against Prism, and they were utilising Prism's once per turn ability to keep making those tokens. So I didn't really get much value out of it that I could, but still a really solid card. Now we have our Heralds, and this is where Prism really shines, and probably why Illusionist is probably the most anticipated deck of Monarch, at least from what I've seen and heard. So Herald of Erudition is a yellow, so she pitches for 2. She's a Majestic. She costs 2 to play. She has Dominate, which means you can only defend with 1 card from your hand. If Herald of Erudition hits, put it into your hero's soul and draw 2 cards. She has Phantasm. This is why it makes it balanced. So Phantasm is if your opponent defends with a 6 or more strength card, they are instantly destroyed. But if they do that, they proc my Merciful Retribution, and it procs my Ode to Wrath, and then the cycle starts over and over again. So then you put this into your soul if they let it hit. If not, it is what it is. That's part of the game. And we have multiple Heralds that we play. We got 2 of Ravages again, pitching for 2. This one, when it does damage, it goes to the soul, but it gives arcane damage, which is also great. Bear in mind, these are all just every time I do damage, it chips away even more. And I essentially, this was the card I just wanted to see every game. It was so good. Herald of Tenacity. We've got a red and a blue version here. And so you can see the difference in the attack. So I would normally attack with this and pitch this to use for resources. This one is just a Dominate, but goes into the soul if it does damage, or if it hits, I should say. We only got 1 Rebirth, but I really do like this card. So if it hits, it goes into the soul, and I can put a card with Phantasm from my grave to the top of my deck, so I can loop any of these if they were destroyed, or just comboed and the chain closed. War Tune Herald, I got 1 of each colour, so I have a red, blue and yellow. These guys are incredibly cheap, incredibly fast, can defend, but they don't have any other effect. They just go to the soul if they hit. So they're great fodder for getting them out, especially you combined it with Ode to Wrath, because all of these are Illusionist, so all of these have Go Again. So I could, in one turn, I could pitch the blue version and swing with these, and it would just come in super handy. Enigma Chimera, just a Phantasm, just a really strong beater. It pitches for free. Not much more I can say on that. It's a good boy. The flavor text is cool. If you don't think it's real, try petting it. Phantasmify, absolutely phenomenal rare. So, like as we've discussed, all of my Illusionists get Go Again. This card turns all of my cards into Illusionists. It does give them Phantasm, but again, if my cards are destroyed, I get the chain and it goes off. So yeah, it's just super cool. The red gives +5 strength, and the blue gives +3 strength. So it's a give and take. So it pitches for 1. I didn't ever really want to pitch this, but I often pitch the blue one. Rising Solar Tide. I absolutely adored this card. Maybe it's just because of the way I was playing, but this is essentially a non-illusionist thing that can help me charge my soul, because you just put it into your hero soul if it hits, and the blue one taps for free. The yellow one gives you for 2, and it's just good. 4 and 3 stat line. combine that with maybe Stubby Hammers early game. Your opponent's not going to want to defend super early unless you're doing real big damage. Yeah, so there you go. That's that. Ray of Hope, which is the pre-release promo. One of them is in that nice cold foil. Hopefully that shows up on camera. It doesn't seem to show up that well on camera, but it's there. That's the cold foil promo from playing in this pre-release. And as I mentioned earlier, my first 2 matchups were Shadow, so this card came in very handy against them. But it also, if I have less health than my opponent, when I cast it, it goes into my soul. And so if I was ever behind, I would just cast it for 1. Sometimes it was beneficial, sometimes it wasn't, but it would go in my soul, and that was always beneficial. I could also pitch it if I needed to use the once per turn create a token. Now we have our generic-y supports. These are why Ode helps a lot, combined with Phantasmia to make these illusionists if need be. We have Seek Horizon, which has Go Again in itself. We have Fortnite Scout, which when it's used from your arsenal, again it's a 0 cost, it gains Go Ahead, so you want to arsenal this card as much as possible. And Yinty Yanti, which if you have an aura, when it attacks you get +1. If you're defending, you get +1. These are auras, my tokens are auras. So really good little trio cards there. Can become illusionists if I really need to. Can get go aheads on their own. Hits for modest damage. Again, all can be buffed by Stubby Hammers. We have Brandish, which itself has Go Again, but it also buffs weapon attacks. And as we established at the start, all my auras become weapons, including these guys. So there's some funky shenanigans that can happen there. I only really utilised it once. Rise Above is a 2-cost 4 defense, but you can put a card on top of your deck to mitigate that cost. Came in handy a few times. Not the best card, not the worst. And then we have 2 cards I didn't use ever, but we'll show them off. Seek Enlightenment and Glisten. And we have 2 cards that kind of helped against the Shadow matchup, but mostly was just easy pitching for free. And there we go, guys. That is my profile. I want to again shout out Mana Gaming for putting on the event. It was really well run, really nice atmosphere, great matches with all of the players we played with, and obviously some really great pulls, which I'm sure you'll see in another video. We're rushing this profile out just to make sure you guys are aware that Prism is one of the coolest decks in any card game I've ever played. I love the soul mechanic. I love making my little my spectral shields, as it were. And yeah, you can find more content on our channel for Flesh and Blood as well as other card games. Let me know in the comments below, how have you done in your pre-releases? What are you excited for in Monarch? What's your favourite deck in Flesh and Blood? Any of those things, or something similar, let us know in the comments below. I've been Scott Stedman, I'm your Guildmaster, and I'll see you next time.